All right, hello to my YouTube friends. Welcome to another one of these long Q&A sessions. If you've been here before, you know I'm just tapping up some likes. That gets people to show up in here. It is February 8th. It's actually my birthday today. Yay! And this is one of my little friends who I am fostering right now. We call him Duke. But anyway, he'll be with me for part of this, I'm sure. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Josh. I was a porn addict for 24 years. I was also an alcoholic for 22 years. I have been clean and sober now for 11 years, and I have also been relapse-free that entire time. I, about 8 years ago, entered this area as an author. I've written 4 books on porn addiction and betrayal trauma. I also have been a presenter, a speaker. I've given hundreds of interviews on podcasts and TV and that kind of stuff. But 5 years ago, I became certified as a pornography addiction coach, as a betrayal trauma coach, and as a therapeutic disclosure specialist. So I can help the addict, I can help their partner, and I can help the partnership, relationship as a whole. I am here today to help you out in any way that I can as a pornography addiction coach. If you have any questions about pornography, pornography addiction, addiction in general, betrayal or trauma in general, I am happy to answer those. The partners of porn addicts are just as welcomed as any porn addict themselves. I am here to answer any questions you may have. And again, this is my little friend who I am fostering right now. Little Dookie. Duke. I always add a Y to the end of animals' names, but you don't want to do that with the name Duke. All I'm going to ask is if you who are here would tap up some likes for me. That is going to get more people into the algorithm. That's going to get us in front of more people on the FYP. That's going to get us in front of more people on the suggested live pages. So if you wouldn't mind tapping up a few likes, I would certainly appreciate that very much. I don't make a dime off that, so thank you. You never know who needs to hear this, so just tapping the screen a few times will always help out a bit. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to answer the question that we get asked more than any other in here over the few years we've been doing this. And that is, thank you for the likes, Apple user. That is, how do you ultimately begin to quit the addiction? And what I think you need to do before you get any tips or techniques, before you try any massive lifestyle changes, before you do a deep dive into the trauma, before you do anything to actually begin quitting, what you need to do is that you need to figure out what your motivation is. Why are you quitting? And beyond that, not just why are you quitting, why must you quit? Why must you quit? What is it that pornography is going to take away from your life that you probably won't be able to get back and that you don't want to lose? Maybe we're talking about your relationship. Maybe we're talking about the fact you're not in a relationship and you think you never will be if you don't get clean. Maybe we're talking about your mental or physical health. Maybe we're talking about your job. Maybe you're starting to act like someone you don't recognize. Whatever it is, the must is yours. And you have to figure that out. It is about your motivation. What is the reason you must quit? What is the reason you must quit? Bacon Motion says 1 week clean. Good work, my friend. Good work. The great thing about hitting a week is that you can no longer claim that there's any single day that you can't get through. Oh, Monday's the worst because it's back to work, back to school, whatever it is. So I've got to use. Nope. Friday, the end of a long week. You got through it. Same thing with the weekend. So now you know you cannot point to any day of the week and say, "Oh, that's the albatross that I can't get through." You absolutely can do this now, and hitting that week mark is an amazing goalpost. It's an amazing marker of your success. So please keep going with it, Bacon Motion. And please tap up likes. Tap, 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 tap up some likes. We just started. The more likes we get, the earlier we get, the more people this is sent to. The more people see this in their FYP. Then those people may need this. I get about 75-80% of my clients through TikTok. The only way they can find me is if I show up on their screen. So I would appreciate any likes you can give me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Cowboy Bebop says, deal with health issues. There you go. If you don't quit porn, will your health issues get worse? If that's a yes, then why would you quit? Why would you continue to use porn? You know, why would you continue if it's causing health issues? If you're worried about your future. So absolutely great reason to quit, Cowboy Bebop. And thank you for being here. Hey, Carol, happy weekend. Thank you. I appreciate the birthday wishes. Thank you very much. I'm too friggin' old now, but I appreciate it. And as you can see, I still have my my little friend here from the shelter who I'm still fostering. What counts as addiction in any sort, in your words? Well, number one, Roadrunner, Will, is that an addiction overall is when you have a behavior that you repeat, whether it's using something, looking at something, ingesting something, whatever it is, you have a behavior that despite understanding there will be very negative consequences to continuing that behavior, you feel like you cannot stop. You feel like you are pulled to it, despite knowing that it is a negative thing. So that's, to me, the basic definition of addiction. However, I would also say when it comes to porn addiction, it's not about how much you watch. It's not about how long do you watch. It's not even about what you watch specifically. It's really individual for every person. And if you are wondering yourself if you might have an addiction with pornography, I would urge you to go check the front page of my profile. And up at the top, there are pinned videos, and one of them says the 11 symptoms of porn addiction. So please go consider taking a look at that. Carol, thank you for all those likes. You are a dove. I appreciate that. Just want to make sure I'm not missing any comments here. I will get to everybody's comment, even if it takes a little bit. I promise that. I always do. Alrighty. All right, you okay, Duke? All right. I have never fostered a Chihuahua before, so this is a new experience for me. It's the weekend. And what's, before I get to that little speech, Zayway says, got the Quitter app 6 days ago, been clean like 8, I think. Good job, Zayway. 8 days is not a short amount of time. I'm hoping the app is working for you. Keep doing everything, that we talk about. Have other plans ready in case you get an urge. Have somebody to talk to, in case you get an urge or a trigger. Recognize that just stopping is not truly recovering. Stopping is the first step of recovering. But that's fantastic to hear you're at a week, Zayway. Congratulations. Congratulations. Pete says, not gonna lie, you were so pretty. I kissed my screen as soon as I saw your beautiful face, Josh. Hey, Pete, I get it. I'm a handsome man. I get it. Just wash your hands when you're done. David Stochero, thank you for following me. I appreciate that very much. Zayway says, you were the main source of my support and recovery. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Zayway. That is a super kind thing for you to say. And I'm glad that I can be here to support you if I can support you in any other way. Even if it's a real session, come hang out with me for an hour. If anybody's interested in learning about getting a free session, or not a free session, but a 55-minute session with me, visit the link tree that you can find on the front page of my profile. Just click on that, and I believe the first option is to have a session with me. So go ahead and, I'd love to meet you at some time if that's a possibility. I appreciate that you said I was your main support, but you were your biggest support. I'm just the dude who said the thing that clicked with you. And thankfully you saw me. That's why I say click up the likes. That's why I say share this. You never know who it's going to get in front of, and I'm glad that I was able to help you. I'm glad that this has been a positive experience for you. Just remember that your next time of using can always be around the corner if you're not careful. Carol, thank you for sharing the live. Jameseth15, thank you for following me. I appreciate that very much. Seems like here on a Saturday afternoon, it's a little slow. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, it's a great day to throw them in here. I'm doing this for a few hours because I won't be able to tonight because I have my birthday dinner with my whole family. And they're not listening now, so I can say in some ways I'd rather be here with you talking about this stuff. But I wanted to get it out of the way during the afternoon. Appreciate those of you who have clicked this up to 2.7 thousand. Thank you very much. So, how do you quit? How do you quit? Why do you want to quit? That's one of the big reasons you also have to figure it out. Not just why must you quit, but why do you want to quit? What kind of a life would you have if you didn't quit? Well, that's a good question too. What kind of life will you have if you don't quit? What kind of life will you have if you do quit? I had a client yesterday who was trying to tell me that this was, I don't deal just with porn. This was a client who, he and his wife, we were talking about his alcohol issue. And and he just said, I don't think I could have a life that I enjoy without the alcohol. And it's like, well, you've never really tried. And I can tell you, as somebody who looked at porn 24 years, as somebody who drank alcohol for 22 years, both at a level of an addict, when you quit your addictions, when you actually get into recovery, the world is so much better on the other side. The world is so much better on the other side. Hope for You was clean 40 days until just day before yesterday. What happened? What happened? Love to hear about it. What happened? How did the cave happen? Is it your birthday? Yes, Zayway, it is my birthday today. Yes. Last year I was celebrating my birthday in Las Vegas, and this year I'm celebrating it with a Chihuahua. So, yeah. I guess it's a upgrade or downgrade, depending on how you look at it. What are you talking about, brother? Hey, Dale, we are mostly talking about pornography addiction. We're also talking about the partners of pornography addiction. And we are, figuring out how to make life easier for everybody. Everything else will fall into place. You're right. If you can stop this behavior, you can get to the next part of recovery. Just stopping is not recovery, because if you just stop, if you're just fasting, if you're just dieting on porn, that's not going to really change anything in the long run. You will probably go back to it the way that almost everybody who diets goes back to eating the way they did. What you have to do is figure out Why did you get that way in the first place? Much like, a obese person. Yes, they need to know how to control their appetite and control their eating, but they really need to understand, why did they get that way in the first place? How did they get that way in the first place? And that's the same thing with pornography addiction. Why did pornography addiction become your thing? What was happening in your life? Why did it become your thing? What happened? Now, a lot of it has to do with not developing the proper problem-solving skills, but really, what happened? Let's figure that out. Hope for you, who I asked about what happened after 40 days, stayed up too late, ended up just scrolling on the phone until boom. Did you see it happening? Did you recognize it was happening? Because you realize you made plenty of decisions to get there. And that's one of the problems of using, I don't want to say slowly, but giving yourself some time. You're on your phone, you're scrolling, you're seeing stuff that maybe isn't porn, but is still enjoyable. And maybe you'll then go a little bit further. Not to real porn, maybe just naked people. It's a slippery slope, and you've got to recognize when you're on the top of the slippery slope, because once you lose your footing, you're just going to keep going. You're just going to keep going. You're going to keep falling. So my wish for you is that you look at what happened the other night and you recognize how you were feeling before you finally gave in, and you see those as red flags. If you feel that way again, you won't go down that road again, hopefully. Recognize, did you know the moment you laid down you'd be doing it for so long? What point in looking did you recognize you were going to break your 40 days? What else could you have done at that point? These are all important questions to ask ourselves after a relapse. Hey, Jet Life, good to see you. Stayed up too late. Okay, we did that. Happy birthday, man. Thank you, Zayway. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's my newest ride around the sun. Big Swiggy, relapsed this morning, didn't get up and stop the boredom from setting in, was on about a 2-week streak. And there's the problem with Saturdays. Saturdays end up throwing off our routines. Somebody like me, I love routine, especially at this point in my life. I need routine. Hey, Oth, good to see you. Good to see you. Super empty in here today, Oth. I don't think anybody's been an asshole yet. It's one of these things that routines are good for people who are addicts. Routines are good for people who are easily swayed or convince themselves or gaslight themselves into going down roads that they shouldn't. Next Saturday, you need to look up. You need to look out for this. Next Saturday, you need to look out for this. But the nice thing is, Swiggy, you can get right back on the horse. You can get right back on the horse. You made a mistake. Recognize why the mistake was made. Didn't get up. Well, now you know. Get the hell out of bed on Saturday mornings. Didn't stop the boredom from setting in. Of course, you're laying there. You're not doing anything. Your phone is not that interesting. You can do this. You can do this. Carol from work, a to-do list. Excellent, Carol. I see. Recovery is beyond just a doing, more than ticking off a checklist or to-do list. Yeah, absolutely. It is a complete mindset change. It is a complete lifestyle change. And here's a perfect example. 15 years ago, when I was heavy in my addiction, I finally let my kids get a dog. We had not had pets for 10, 12 years. Yeah, probably about 12 years. I think that's about how old my daughter was then. I didn't let them have animals. I didn't want to deal with them. They were a nuisance. They offered nothing. Pains in the asses. Now here I am, 15 years later, and I have 6 cats. I have 4 dogs, and I'm fostering this dog. and another one that's over there on the bed who seems to be very asleep. You change who you are, and now some of the healthiest stuff I do is with fostering animals. Never would have thought that was the thing to do. Never would have thought that was the thing to do. But like you say, it's more than ticking. It's a lifestyle change. And it turns out when I stopped being a self-centered asshole, I really like these little guys. You know, kittens or dogs. I really like them. Hello, Alf. Letting go of shame is a really hard part of the journey, I think, especially after relapses. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But again, that's why we educate. This is an illness. You know, you have been instilled that you should have shame looking at pornographic content. Well, those are just people's opinions. Those are just people's taboos, whatever. And if you relapse, yeah, it sucks. You drop the ball. But everybody drops the ball in so many aspects of life. We're human. We make mistakes. But how do you learn from your mistakes? That's what makes it different. And that's why, you know, with relapses, I say, okay, it sucks. You fell down. Brush yourself off and find out why you fell down so you don't fall down again. OMG, happy birthday. Thank you, Oth. Thank you very much. Not going to tell you how old I am. Let's just say it's between 26 and 29. Hope for you says, hopefully so. Now 2 days clean and hope to beat the record of 40 days to 90 days. Hey, I hope you beat the record and do the rest of your life. I hope you do the rest of your life. Just make sure that you are doing the full recovery. It's not just about white knuckling. It's about understanding why you developed the addiction. What happened early on that made you go down this road? Why did you continue to go down this road? What was the trauma that caused it? In not being able to deal with that trauma and using pornography as a maladaptive coping tool, how else has that affected your life? How else has that affected your life? These are important things to recognize, to understand. Hey, Gabito, I'm tired. I'm sure you are. How is it on the force right now? For people who don't know, Gabito has joined the police academy in Puerto Rico. Haven't talked in several weeks. Last I heard, it was going well. Curious if it's still going well, Gabito. Moderator Oth muted John. Well, thank you, Moth. Thank you, Oth. Please feel free to mute anybody who is an ass. Carol from work says, what you do here is very helpful, man. Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. That's part of the reason I'm here, is because while I quit almost 11 years ago, you go back then, there was no TikTok, so there was nothing like this out there. We weren't talking about pornography addiction yet, so just trying to help some people, and that's an extension of my coaching. And if anybody here does feel like they need coaching, whether you are the addict or whether you're the partner of the addict dealing with the pain, you can book a session with me. Just visit the front page of the profile, click the link tree, and you'll see it's the first option. H says, I'm watching corn, but I don't think it's affecting me. Well, there are a lot of people who it doesn't horribly affect because they only watch once, twice a month. You know, that's like having 1 or 2 beers a couple times a month. It's not going to affect you. It's certainly not healthy, but it's not going to negatively affect you. It's people using again and again. And people using not just because it's sexy people doing sexy things, but because it actually causes a chemical reaction in their brain. They produce extra dopamine, extra oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. These pleasure chemicals are how people deal with life because they did not develop the proper problem-solving skills when they were young, the proper anxiety management skills, the proper stress management skills. These are skills that you were too young to learn, too young to understand, were simply never taught, but you found pornography and it helped you deal with the bad stuff. And if you can deal with the bad stuff, why develop those skills? You know, it's like saying, if I have a typewriter, why learn how to write letters if I can type? Well, because someday the typewriter may break and you're shit out of luck. All right, let me keep going here. I am going to catch up with everybody. Uno, for me, it started being ashamed in front of parents as a kid when kissing scenes happened on movies. I get that, but that really is your parents. You didn't come out of the womb like that. You didn't come out of the womb thinking that kissing scenes were taboo or bad or good or sad or happy. You were taught that. You were taught that, and I was too. My mom, obviously you can tell I've got some age on me. In the, mid to late 80s, when we had HBO, my mom would let me watch Rambo kill, hundreds of people violently. But God forbid an ass or some breasts end up on the screen. Oh no, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. That's not the way to handle that stuff with your kids, by the way. And I, too, Carol, became very anxious watching that kind of stuff with my parents. I still am. Thankfully, I don't watch much TV or movies with them anymore. But yeah, suddenly some sex stuff comes on the screen. Suddenly some naked people come on the screen. If my mom's there, she's going to make a big show about how we should see that, how we shouldn't look at it. That's really how I grew up, and it sounds like that's what you did. It's going well. I took pepper spray 2 weeks ago. Oh my goodness. I've never done. I've been tased voluntarily. But I've never done the pepper spray thing. One time when I was a journalist, I volunteered. The police department was looking for a volunteer, and I thought it would make a good story, so I went and allowed myself to get tased, and holy shit, that hurt. And the tests are harder. Oh, I'm sure they are. The amount of stuff you have to know as an officer of the law, that's a lot. How's it going, Coach? Hey, Smoothie Buns. That's actually my birthday. I am just passing some time before I go do my birthday dinner with my parents and my daughter and my wife later. Unfortunately, my son is in LA, so he can't join us. But so I'm doing this now, so I don't have to do it later. And we're supposed to be hit with another damn snowstorm tonight. So I'm not thrilled with that. But, hey, I'm having a fine time. It's a Saturday, and I'm here talking to people, helping them, enjoying myself. I got a beautiful little dog on my lap who is going to live with me for another week or so. I could complain, but, why? So when can you decide, let me see that. When can you decide if it's now affecting you? Great question, H. Great question. You should go to the front page of my profile, and you will see up in the pinned videos, there is a video called The 11 Symptoms of Corn Addiction. And if you click on that, you can count along and decide for yourself if you're an addict. Because keep in mind, addict is just a word. It doesn't really matter what you call yourself, but do you have the symptoms of the problem? And then you have to decide if you're going to do anything about it. But if you want to learn if you're an addict or not, go to the front page of the profile and click on those. Click on that top video. Carol from work says, haha, exactly, man. It instills the shame, which instills the hiding, and there it can start. Yeah. When I was a kid, when I was getting to my pornography, the toughest part was, number one, finding it. Number two, hiding it. I had like 3 different places in my room where I knew my mother wouldn't look, or if she did, she wouldn't dig too hard. And that's where I kept my porn. It was about hiding it. It was about not finding it. It's about not wanting to take her shit when it's found. Did that contribute to my addiction? I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest. I'm not sure. The amount I had clearly had to do with my addiction. But, I just think if you can be open about nudity, open about sex, especially with your children, if you can teach them there's a difference between sex and nudity, that's an important thing too, because while as a little kid, I don't think I really understood what sex was. I knew it involved naked people. And, from some of my own stories of abuse, I got the two very confused. That's something that shouldn't happen to kids these days. We know too much. We know too much about this. Blah, 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 blah. Let me keep going here. Coach, I be blocked all corn. Good for you, Gio. Good for you. I hope that you will be able to stay on that journey, stay away from it, and start to do the tougher part. But I think it's fantastic you blocked all corn. That's the place to start. That's absolutely the place to start, Gio. Happy birthday, man. Still working. Of course I'm working, Carol. It's one of the things I enjoy the most in life. And the thing is, I was also a workaholic. I don't talk a lot about that, but one of the reasons why I used to work 80 to 100 hours a week, because it gave me a sense of control. It gave me a sense of power. And while I work very hard to balance that now, I'll be doing this for a little while, probably not too much longer this afternoon because I do have a bunch of other stuff to do. But I like being able to sit here. I like being able to talk about this stuff. I like knowing that somebody may be helped. And it gives me some kind of purpose. My life could be falling apart, but work has always been one of those things that centers me. Not that I need it today, but Gio, when did you know enough is enough? When I got fired from work even though I owned 1/3 of the company, the other owners fired me, and then my family pretty much the next day had an intervention, which I guess it worked, but it was during that intervention I recognized I was about to lose my family, my wife, my kids, and I didn't want to do that. And it was going to happen, so I had to change my ways. So I made the decision to put my ego aside, to put the idea that I'm right about everything aside, to put the idea that I had the answer aside, and just say, okay, there is no porn more important than my wife and kids, than my family, than my friends. And I destroyed these relationships, or I hurt these relationships for a very long time, and now I want to fix them. And the way that I start by doing that is to quit the pornography and quit the drinking. And that was an easy choice for me. Even though I was 24 years a porn addict, 22 years an alcoholic, it was an easy choice because I didn't want to lose my wife and kids. They were far more important. So that's ultimately how I knew enough was enough. I knew I couldn't go any further. All I could do was leave everybody I knew behind, leave everybody I loved behind, and go be an addict someplace else, or I could get my shit together. And I got my shit together. Oth says, although I think my mom may be an SA of sorts. That's not good. That's not good. My mom used to cash child support checks for me at Exotica. Yeah, maybe, but hey, you're okay. She probably did what she had to do to keep you in clothes and in food, and it's very hard for me, especially if somebody doesn't have other skills, to criticize them for doing what they have to do, and especially if it's 100% legal. She probably did what she had to do. Yeah, hard to know what really created the addiction part, says Carol from work. For me, it got worse the minute I found NoFap. I became more attached to the whole thing. Yeah, NoFap is, it's more like the Matrix Club, it feels like at this point. Which is also funny because it started as the Seinfeld Club. NoFap is based on an episode of Seinfeld. If you trace back the history on Reddit, it's a bunch of guys who just decided to recreate the episode or recreate the contest from the episode called The Contest. And NoFap grew out of that. Yeah, totally purposeful, and it helps me center in my own purpose. So thank you for being here. I am happy to be here, Carol. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you're here. And I'm going to guess you must be from the UK if you spelled center that way. Am I correct? What was the most in one day? I don't know, twice. I was not the guy who used 5 times a day. That was never me. I mostly, in the last 5-10 years of my addiction, I mostly used late at night after everybody went to bed. When I was younger and, lived alone or whatever, I had more options to use at different times. But yeah, no, I was one of those guys who was only once or twice a day. I feel sad for the people who have been met with that decision and still choose corn. Well, they're not ready to choose anything else. And usually the thing is, I've done this enough to recognize that when people know they're addicts, they know they're addicts for a reason. And they know if they quit, they're going to have to learn how to deal with things in a different way. Painful things from long ago. There is nobody who wants to cry less than a 55-year-old blue-collar man from the Midwest of the United States. But he may have been a porn addict for a long time. But because of what he thinks masculinity means, because what he thinks, how his brothers or his friends or his daddy would look at it, he doesn't want to go get help. So he's just going to continue on because that's what a man does. Or for women, I see a lot of women who continue on with their addiction because, well, I'm a woman. Women can't be porn addicts. Oh, yes, you can. Oh, yes, you can. If you're choosing pornography, you're making the wrong choice. Oh, wow. NoFap from Seinfeld is crazy. Isn't it, though? Isn't it, though? And if you've seen that episode called The Contest, you know that it's a contest where the 4 main characters see how long they can go without masturbation, and the person who wins in the end gets $100 from each person. Try not to masturbate. That's the basis of NoFap, and that's how it started. I am from the UK. Well, aren't I good with my language? No, it's actually funny. Years ago, I was a ghostwriter for an Australian company. I wrote probably 10, 15 books for them, and I had to learn how to write in Australian English, and it is very close to UK English. Like, we can't call it an elevator, it's a lift. It's not an apartment, it's a flat. Are you still addicted? No, Carol, I'm not. I was a porn addict 24 years. I was an alcoholic 22 years. I became clean and sober and started my journey on March 20th, 2014. So I'm almost 11 years clean at this point. No relapses, doing well. My first message got blocked. I don't know why. I was saying my parents were the opposite. They were too comfortable with it around me. Yeah, and that's the thing you also have to be careful of. I don't think there should be, taboos about your body. I think, being nude around your kids at an age-appropriate time is fine, and you can answer questions. And if you have a nudist lifestyle and it's not hurting anybody, whatever. I don't know enough about that mindset to say whether that's healthy or not. But I think it's healthier to not have shame about your body. I think that's good. But being naked and sex are not the same thing. Sexuality and nakedness are not the same thing. I've been to nude beaches. After about 6-7 minutes of where are the good-looking people, And real, when you're one of the good-looking peoples at the nude beach, when you're one of the good-looking people at the nude beach, it's not, you're not exactly on the French Riviera with nothing but models there. It's not sexual. After a few minutes, it is absolutely boring because most people there look like people who were your high school principal. Yeah, and that's fun. But to be having a sexual environment, to have a culture of sex and pornography in your home, yeah, you don't want to sexualize kids younger than they should be. And sexualization means that basically they go from boys and girls have different parts, and girls have these things up here, and you may or may not know how babies are made, but to objectification, to, oh yes, I see, the penis goes into the vagina. Oh, I'm now attracted to people. I hear stories all the time of kids being like in second, third grade, just loving their teacher, and then something happens, they're exposed to this kind of stuff, and then they go back to school, and instead of just loving their teacher like a mother or a caretaker, suddenly, oh, Miss Jones, Miss Smith, she's a woman, and boy, I bet it would be nice to kiss her. And that kind of stuff, that happens a lot. I'm heading out now. Catch you later. Thank you, Carol, from work. Glad you were here. We'll see you later. Seaman says, do you get paid as a coach? Yes, it is my full-time job. It is my full-time job. I am a pornography addiction coach, a betrayal trauma coach. That means that I work with the partners of porn addicts who are often shocked that their partner has been a porn addict because they've lied about it for so long. And I also work with the couples together as a disclosure specialist. So yes, most days I see 4 or 5 people, semen or couples. Is it bad I still whack it? Well, it's certainly not going to help your addiction if you have it, because here's the thing, even if you're not looking at porn, I bet you're thinking about porn when you're whacking it. And thinking about it and picturing it in your mind is the same thing as looking at the pictures and processing them in your mind. It's the same thing. The same chemical reaction happens. So if you're just masturbating and thinking about it, yeah, that's just as bad, because the chemicals are just as bad. This really isn't about your addiction to body parts, your addiction to vagina or penises, because you probably don't have one. You just, okay, Oth, thank you for letting me know. I appreciate you being here. I'm not going to be here too much longer either. I just wanted to get this out of the way for today. But yeah, ultimately, user, you need to recognize that whether you are viewing the porn with your eyes or whether you are just thinking about it in your mind and picturing it that way, it's the same thing. The chemicals are flowing. You are addicted to the good feeling the chemicals give you. So just because you cut out the actual photos or the actual videos doesn't mean the same thing isn't still happening in your mind. And that is really important to recognize. That is really, really important to recognize. You cannot just quit the porn. And the thing is, it's really not even truly at the root porn addiction. It is sexual material addiction. If you're watching, ladies and men in their bathing suits and you masturbate to that, it's the same as looking at porn. You could be looking at women from the Middle East who are head to toe with just their eyes showing. If that is what is getting you off, that might as well be pornography. And that is one of the reasons why I also, and we get the question so many times, is, can I use stuff that my wife or my husband sends me? And it's still porn. If you use it as porn, it's still porn. It's true, it changes your brain chemistry. Absolutely, Adnan. And it doesn't take very long. It absolutely changes your brain chemistry. Everything changes your brain chemistry. There's a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. And what that basically means is that your neural pathways, your neurons, there's a plasticity, an ability to change, an ability to shapeshift into what your body needs. And when your body starts needing the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, all of these things that you know how to produce now that you can use porn and masturbate, your body is going to start asking for it even more. Your body's going to start demanding it. So yes, and this also, Adnan, is why porn addiction is a disease. Addiction is a disease, and it does change your brain's chemistry. I know a lot of people don't want to believe it's a disease, don't want to believe it's a problem, but science tells us now it absolutely is. Precious Paulino, hello. How does one fix this? Well, it's a little different for everybody. The first step is figuring out why you must quit. What is your motivation? Why must you quit? Then it's a matter of learning a few tips and techniques that help you start to reduce use if you don't go cold turkey. And the biggest part, ultimately, Paulino, is that you need to figure out, why did you become an addict in the first place? What happened? And the way that it goes is that usually, number one, there's some kind of trauma in your life when you're young, and you can't deal with it because you don't have the skills. So it just so happens right around that time, you find pornography, you're introduced to pornography, and it makes you feel better in a way that it never has before. You know, my first time seeing hardcore pornography in a magazine, I was addicted right then and there. It didn't take time because I think I got that rush of chemicals immediately. And that ultimately led to me continuing to use. Why do I have to figure out how to deal with the world's problems on the world's terms if I can just go look at porn and feel better? A couple of years later, I learned the same thing with alcohol. So I was an alcoholic 22 years, a porn addict 24 years. I had to not just learn how to quit. I had to learn to go back, figure out what caused me to be an addict, what were the circumstances around it, and how did that trauma, how did the addiction, how did my fear in life basically lead up to that day? How did I become the man that I was? That's the biggest question. How did I become the man that I was? What role did pornography play? How did it affect me? How did the trauma affect me? You've got to go deeper. You know, you can't, a lot of people like say, well, I'm just going to quit looking. That's not really recovering. That's fasting. That's dieting. That's starving. And one night you'll probably break down and use porn because your brain is screaming for it. Clorox Bleach says, I see no problem. Well, I've been explaining the problem. You are either denying it because you enjoy using, or you don't want to admit you have a problem, or you somehow make money off of it. Because it clearly is a problem. Paulino says, this actually ended my relationship 2 weeks ago after 5 years. I'm sorry, Paulino. I'm sorry. Based on what you said to Simzim Zabber, sounds like it was probably your partner that was doing it. And that's a shame. I'm sure I'm sure you dealt with a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of sadness, a lot of anger, a lot of lying. And I never tell anybody to stay together. I never tell anybody to break up, which frustrates my partner clients sometimes, that I won't tell them what to do. But I hope you did the best thing for yourself. That's what I want people to do. I want them to make the best choice for themselves. Sometimes that's staying to work on things. Sometimes that is breaking up. Jason Villard, thank you for following me. I appreciate that very much. Glad you're here. Glad you're part of the community. If you're not following me, please do. You will get my videos. I usually make a couple a day. I do about 5 of these lives a week scattered all around. So this will also tell you when I'm going live, which would be wonderful to have you be part of this community. Love the fact that you are having conversations with each other. Jen says, my husband won't acknowledge it's an addiction and said he will just stop. Okay, what's his plan? And how is he qualified to say it's not an addiction? The reality is, and I'm not putting this on anybody's shoulders, but there are many partners, and I will say flat out they are women, who will come to me and say, my guy is a porn addict. And okay, why do you say that? Well, I caught him using twice this year. And I know he is, I know he's an addict. And then I have conversations with her and often with him. And it turns out he's not an addict. He may be an asshole, but he's not an addict. And I will flat out say, this guy is not an addict. And I have seen the sadness in some women's eyes when you say, he's not an addict. The addict thing doesn't answer this. Just like 5 years ago when every woman was saying that their partner was a narcissist. That's not the case. These are scientific terms that people like to throw around. Grooming. There's a hell of a lot less grooming going on in this world than people would believe if they knew the actual definition of it. But my point, Jen, is that if it's not an addiction, why don't you urge him to sit down with both of you and have a conversation with me? And even if it's not an addiction, it's clearly hurting you. That should matter. Yes, if it's an addiction, he should get help. It's an illness, he needs help. It's a disease, he needs help. But if he's not an addict and he's still hurting your feelings, if he's still betraying, your vows, that should be a big deal for him. If he came to you and said, I don't know what candy bars you like, but let's say you like Milky Way. I don't want you to eat Milky Ways anymore. I have a problem with them. I'm against them. They are not what I want for this marriage. They're not what I want for my partner. They're not what I want for myself. Will you please stop eating Milky Way candy bars? You would probably say yes, because this is your partner asking you to do this. Usually people who are not addicted could just quit. But there are a lot of people who'd be like, oh yeah, I won't use Milky Way. I won't eat Milky Way. And then they will go ahead and eat it, because they have an addiction. So Jen, why don't you get this guy, book a session with me and this guy, or the three of us. If he's not an addict, I'll say it. If he is, I also will say it. And if he's like, no, I don't want to, well, there's probably your answer. Will you go talk to a therapist, talk to a coach? Will you go to a 12-step group? No, I don't need any of that. Well, I need you to go do that. As your wife, as your partner, as the person who's supposed to be your best friend, I need you to do that. This is a boundary I'm creating. So you've got some leverage here, Jen. And if he says he's not an addict, then, tell him he shouldn't be afraid of exploring it if he's not. Paulina says a lot of cheating, the trauma, that part. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is, a lot of guys left, this isn't cheating. Well, the only kind of cheating is not having sex with another person. That is a form of cheating. That's a pretty big form of cheating. But look at the definition of cheating. It is breaking the rules. When you cheat on a quiz in school or a test in school, you write the answers on your hand. You're taking the test and you're like, that's cheating. That's breaking the rules. If you're playing cards and you put a few aces up your sleeve to pull out right at the right time so you can win that hand with the big money pot, that's cheating. That's breaking the rules. When you are in a relationship, whether it's with a man or with a woman, when you together decide or say, there won't be porn in this relationship, I don't want my partner to use porn. When you come to a consensus of, okay, this is a porn-free relationship, we will lead porn-free lives, if they ignore you and then they lie about it and then they go do it, that's cheating twice. Because your partner's not supposed to lie to you, number one. That's breaking the rules. And they're not supposed to look at or use porn. You made that rule already. So they've broken two rules that you both agreed to. That's cheating. Breaking the rules is cheating. How can someone stop it outright? Cold turkey. Great question, HNO8. I did cold turkey, and I was able to be successful, but it's very difficult for a lot of people to do cold turkey. I wouldn't do cold turkey unless you were like talking to a coach or a therapist like myself at the same time. But most people do wean down, but it really doesn't matter how you quit as long as you quit. You know, if you say by April 1st, I want to be porn free, you can use as much porn as you want right up to that day. And then on March 31st, you stop completely. There's your cold turkey. Or you stop today and even on March 31st and April 1st, you're not using. Great. Or you wean down. Let's say you're somebody that uses once a day. Okay, well, this week you're doing it 7 times. Next week you're going to do it 5 times. And the week after that, 4. The week after that, 2. The week after that, 2 again. And then 1, and then 0. You're going to taper. And then on April 1st, you're not using. It's really about getting there. One of the things I do with my clients is to help create these little plans to get them there. Hey, Tyreek, glad you're here. I'll get to your comments in a sec. Precious Paulino says, you start to devalue yourself, not feel worthy. Yeah, of course, but I hope you understand, Paulino, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. It's not that you lost your looks. It's not that you're not pretty anymore. It's not that you're not good in bed anymore. It's not that you're not as nice to be around. It has nothing to do with that. This dude was an addict probably before he met you. And one of the ways that I drive this home, especially to the wives, is to, say, I became a porn addict at 12. I met my wife when I was 26. How in the hell could she have had anything to do with my addiction when I was already an addict for 14 years? Now, I didn't realize that I was an addict at the time. It took me doing this hard work and going back and looking at my life. When I said I do, I would have probably denied I was an addict of porn or alcohol. But now going back and looking at it, yeah, I can see what it really was all about. And it was never about her. It was never about a woman I dated. It was never, ever about a partner. And it wasn't even really, it wasn't even about nakedness. It wasn't even really about sex. It was about trying to calm that storm in my mind, that storm of fear, of sadness, of self-loathing, of shame, of guilt, of anger. It was about trying to manage all that, and the only way I could manage that was by flooding myself with those pleasure chemicals. Tyreek says, I just realized today there was no one last time. I keep thinking some days that I can do it one last time and then be done forever, but I know that's a lie. And let's be honest. What is one, what are you going to get one last time? Do you think fireworks go off? Do you think your orgasm is stronger than ever? Do you think that you're like, oh, well, I'm done that. I'm never going to get an urge again. That's not the way it happens. There's no ceremony. You just stop and you don't do it again. It's not like graduating. You don't get to wear a gown. Your name's not going to be in the newspaper. There is no one last time. You're right, Tyreek. I like the fact you said that. Understand why the addiction began, and you got to go from there. Absolutely, Noah. Absolutely. That's when I became a coach, or even, today, helping people stop the behavior of pornography, of masturbation, is the easy part. Getting them to go back to understand why they became this way, what happened in the beginning. And the reason they're using today, 12, 15 years later, is not the reason they started when they were 13. But they never developed the behavior modification skills. They never developed the coping skills. That's why it's, when you are an addict, basically you have the developmental skills of who you were when you became an addict. At 18, at 25, at 32, I was still leaning on porn and alcohol the way that I always had because I didn't have ways to deal with things. That's what you need to work on ultimately, is having another way to deal with the negativity in your life. And a lot of times that means you have to figure out, why did this start? So excellent. Well said, Noah. Precious Paulino says, I wish I booked sooner. Well, you can still book with me now. You probably are still dealing with the trauma. Where are you going to go from here? What is it going to be like for you from here? There's probably a lot for you to sort through. It essentially is like being the wife of a drug addict or an alcoholic. They always say that everybody around the addict gets sick, and you probably did too. You probably, are dealing with the betrayal trauma. So even if he's gone, you may still need to sift through some things, or you may repeat these patterns of finding a partner like this. Sadly, I have a lot of betrayed partners who are in their 40s or 50s. They're on their third husband with a porn addict or the porn addiction. And I don't know how I choose these guys. Well, but it clearly is a theme. So there always is more work that you can do. So please, I'd love to meet you, Paulino. If you are interested in learning more about booking with me, go to the front page of my profile. Up where there's the link, it's the link tree. Click on that, and my first link is how to book with me and all the information you need there. It's much cheaper than a traditional therapist, and you can literally see me as, there might still be an opening later tonight. I'm not sure because I've got my birthday dinner, but I can see you as early as Monday morning. You're not going to get that with a traditional therapist. Noah says, I feel like most cases it's definitely an addiction and has been their life since young. Probably. If you haven't done it yet, one of the things I would suggest is you go to the front page of my profile. Up in the pinned videos, one's called The 11 Symptoms of Porn Addiction. I would suggest you try that. Take a look at that. Count along with yourself and figure out just how bad things are or how good things are. You never know. Sir, how do I stop? Figure out why you must stop. That's the number one thing I can urge you. Figure out why you must stop. That's going to be your motivation. Not, I know it's not good for me, or... No, figure out why you must stop. What is porn going to take away from you if you don't? How is porn going to wreck your life if you don't? That's what you need to do before anything else, Jacob. Why must you quit? Hey, Jen, glad you're still here. He doesn't stop. I've found it several times. He just hides it better. Okay, so he's lying. What are you going to do about it? Can you be with a man who is a liar? Can you be with a man who uses porn? Can you be with a man who doesn't care about your needs, your wants? If he's not going to stop, you're going to have to let him know things will change if he doesn't stop. And that can mean that you will leave, or you can say that, I will stay if you start to get help and really change and really battle with this, or you just strap in and it's going to be a rough roller coaster ride the rest of the way. But you've decided you can't do anything about it, which isn't really true, but a lot of people just try to pretend it's not there. That's going to be a rough ride for you. You have to figure out what's best for you, Jen. Tyane, hi Josh, hope everything is good with you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Everything is good with me today. It's actually my birthday. Adnan mentions the withdrawals. Exercise helps with the withdrawals. It keeps your brain clean. Yeah, it does. Exercise is great because exercise is going to give you endorphins and serotonin naturally, the way you're supposed to get them. You will scientifically not have an urge for these chemicals through pornography if you're getting them in a natural way. So I say, do things naturally that make you feel good, that make you smile, that give your body a workout. Withdrawals are probably the hardest. Exactly 1 week with none. At least for me, they were. And that's true with a lot. Some people have horrible withdrawals, like drug addict level withdrawals. Some people have none. Everybody is different. But yeah, those withdrawals, when you're getting those urges, when you're telling yourself you can't use and your body actually hurts because you're not giving in. You feel pain because you're not giving in. That's withdrawing. That's withdrawing. Precious Paulino, they most likely will have this issue next relationship and after. Absolutely. That's one of the things that I try to tell my clients who are addicts, both men and women, because I see more women than I ever have for porn addiction now, is that so in your case, Paulino, your guy is gone. The next woman going to have to deal with this? Well, she'll probably leave too. Until he recognizes this is his problem that is going to affect his life in negative ways, and it's going to affect those he loves around him, it's just going to keep going. It's just going to keep going. And unfortunately, there are so many men in this world that are such big scaredy cats when it comes to dealing with their past. We've got men are still supposed to be strong and not have emotions and not have mental health. And my daddy didn't have to deal with this. And, oh my God, I can't talk to my male friends about this because this is not something a real man has. This is the very definition of toxic masculinity. This is the very definition of toxic masculinity. How do you stop? Keep listening, Ezel. I do answer that many times. Bro, this is insane. Don't know exactly why you're saying that, but, it certainly is over the top. Paulino says, yes, I'm hurting. It's hard to know if it's narcissistic qualities or this addiction. It might be both. Most addicts have pretty big egos. Most addicts are control freaks. Most addicts are power hungry because there have been things they couldn't control. There's been times they don't have power. So now they hold on to it. Some people do say that those are narcissistic traits. But whether he's a narcissist or anything else, it doesn't matter. He's an addict. About half of people who are addicts have some other mental health thing going on. ADD, bipolar, ADHD, Asperger's, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call them. About half of people who are addicts have this stuff. And he may have had some mental health condition as well. Thank you so much. No problem, Paulino, no problem. Today I have 11 days after watching Korn for 20 years. Brandon, I'm glad to hear that. And here's the thing, you may have 20 years of not using ahead of you. Day 11 doesn't sound very far into it, but I haven't been using for almost 11 years. I had a day 11. Everybody who has successfully defeated this has a day 11. So you're probably just on the beginning of an amazing journey, Brandon. Just make sure that you recognize it wasn't that you just liked naked people while you became this way. There were other things that happened, and I hope that you're getting help for recognizing that. What have you replaced it with? I've replaced it with, one of my big things is going to concerts. One of my big things is fostering animals. I have just built relationships with my wife, with my kids, with my parents that I never had as strong as before. I now don't chase the kind of things that I chased, but ultimately I really haven't had to replace it, because what I've done, JG, is I've dealt with the problem. I dealt with the problem. It's like there was a fire inside of me. I put that fire out. Well, what have you replaced that fire with? Well, I don't need to replace that fire. That fire was a bad thing. It's gone now. A lot of people are like, so what do you do for the dopamine? Well, you're not supposed to get that much dopamine. You're not supposed to get that much serotonin or oxytocin. These are toxic levels of this stuff in your head. This is why it's a disease. Google, porn addict brain. It does not look like a healthy brain. So I didn't replace it with anything that was that gave me those chemicals, in an unnatural, addictive way. And that's one of the things I have to watch with my clients. With my younger clients, there's a tendency to move towards alcohol or video games. With my older clients, it's a tendency to move towards alcohol. It can be other things as well, but that's really what I also have to watch out for, because if you are getting your chemical high by using porn and then you switch to video games or gambling or whatever, you're still getting those chemicals. You can say, well, ethically, I'm not looking at porn, so this is better, but ethically, schmethically, you have a health issue, you still have a health issue. Glory, thank you for following me. Happy birthday, says Azelle. Thank you. Thank you, Paulina. Appreciate it. Thank you, Osama. Appreciate that too. Thank you, Tiny. Appreciate that. You're all very kind to me. This is like old school Facebook back in the day. Everybody's saying happy birthday. I haven't been on Facebook 10 years. It's possible. Do you think a good solution to stopping porn is getting a girlfriend? For some people it is, but those people are not addicts. A lot of people who use porn that aren't addicts, and by far most people who use porn are not addicts. Those people who are not addicts most often report spikes in their use when they are between partners. So you will probably see a drop in your use if you do have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, someone who you can be intimate with. You probably, in that case, you're using porn as a way to get off. You're using porn as a visual aid. You're using porn because you're horny. That's not why addicts really do it. We're trying to calm the storm in our mind. My husband got the shakes and fever after stopping. He was way deep in the addiction. Yeah, I've heard that too. And that same thing happens with heroin addicts. Your body is fighting a chemical war. And it can win. What is a fever? A fever is raising your body's temperature. Why does your body raise its temperature? Because it's trying to burn something off. My doctor has told me, and this is not me advising this to you, I'm telling you what my doctor told me. He said, don't take fever reducers. If you end up with a fever of like 106, get your ass to the hospital. But let fevers run their course, because fevers are actually trying to help you. And I could totally understand why he would have the shakes and the fever. because the chemicals in his body are at war. And they're trying to start to burn off some of these things so he can get healthy. Noah said, "Happy birthday, bro. Your work is very appreciated." Thank you, Noah. I appreciate that. Offline Peggy, I think you asked something else and it didn't go through because it looks like this is the second half of a statement. So you may have said a word that's not allowed. Does it require no FAP or is it okay without corn and not so often? Well, no FAP if you mean not masturbating, yes. If you mean the bullshit pseudoscience no FAP culture, that's not worth it. But yeah, you have to decide for yourself if you can watch. You know, try not watching, try not masturbating for 2 or 3 weeks. See what the urges feel like. If you don't have any, you're probably not an addict. If you do, you need to address them. It's a good theory. Thank you, Adnan. Gooning is healthy. Well, you're going to have a rough road ahead of you, and cause. Birdman, thank you for sharing the live. Much appreciated. Thank you. Yeah, I realized I used it for a coping mechanism throughout my teenage years. Absolutely. From 13 to 24, I've used it to cope with anything in my life. Yeah, it's your problem-solving technique. And the problem is, Tyreek, you probably have the problem-solving skills. You probably have the behavior modification skills of a 13-year-old. Because that's when you stopped evolving. That's when you stopped working on those skills. So I hope that you will, will continue to heal and continue to develop those skills so you can recognize and you can, realize a proper, healthy adulthood, the kind that you deserve. If you stop corn, do you get better at training or chasing your dream? Well, I don't know what your dream is, but yeah, of course, if you are not addicted to something, you're training, you want that. You're chasing your dream, you want that to be your focus. If you're an addict, something else is your focus, so you're going to have trouble reaching those dreams. Are your betrayal therapy sessions affordable? I hope so, Christy. They cost about half to a third of what a normal one would with a therapist. It is, for the first session, it's $45 for an hour. And you can sign up on my on the front page of my profile. If you click on the link tree and then you click on the first link to schedule, you can go there and learn all about it. But yeah, $45. What's that? 3 cartons of eggs these days? I hope you'd consider that affordable these days. If your health, mental or physical, is not worth $45, it's not much I can say. I noticed the other day that I got pretty scared after seeing a bug in my room, and my mind went straight to wanting to look at stuff to cope for some reason. Of course, it's fear. There are only 2 emotions in this world, I believe. Love and fear. There are only 2 motivations in this world. Love and fear. When you saw that bug, you went into fear mode. Your body's like, okay, you got rid of the bug, you dealt with it, and okay, that was scary, that was fearful, that was unexpected. What happens when we get something like this? Well, we go use porn. We go use porn to calm ourselves down. I did answer you, It sometimes takes me a little while to answer these questions because I want to give thorough answers. So I hope you got it. What happens if I live to goon? Then you need to find another reason to live. You need to find something else to do because that's not healthy. That's not healthy. That's not cool. That's not good. Do you think this is gonna, help you get a partner, help you have friends, help you feel healthy? It's not. You're not going to be on your deathbed thinking, I wish I just would have masturbated a little more. You're going to think about all the things you've missed. I don't know how old you are, chill guy, but it's as I mentioned earlier, it's my birthday today. I will never be able to get that year back. Did I make the best out of that year that I could? I hope so, because it's not coming back. I'm never going to have my 20s again. My body, I can feel it starting to get old. It sucks. But I at least now can recognize I'll never be this age again. I have to make the most out of now. And if I'm at home, I'm at the point where I do it 12 times a day. 12 times a day, dude? I hope you're joking, but unfortunately I've talked to enough guys who do it a lot. You're a slave to this. You're living for the wrong reasons. Why did you get this way? How did you get this way? These are questions that if you're serious and not just trolling, these are questions you need to answer. Paulino says, shout out to the vulnerable, honest people in here recognizing this in themselves. Absolutely, Paulino, and this is why I do this. I wish there would have been a room like this back when I was an addict. There was no TikTok. Thankfully, there was no OnlyFans. Porn is constantly evolving. Because it's porn. It's kind of funny. If you look at, and I have done a lot of study in this area, even when I was back in college, I worked in media forever before doing this. If you want to look at emerging media, if you want to look at emerging technologies within media, look no further than the pornography industry and the pro wrestling industry. They are the two industries that are always on the cutting edge of emerging media technology. Kind of random, but why? Porn is cheap to produce. Wrestling is cheap to produce. People have always been interested in watching sex, in seeing depictions of sex. People have always been interested in seeing two gladiators go at each other. This gladiator fights were going on 1,000 years ago. Yeah, it's very different these days when you've got The Rock and John Cena going at each other, but it's still largely the same thing. 49 days strong. Kick ass, Ravi. That is awesome. That is awesome, my friend. Make sure you're doing the part of it to figure out why you became an addict. Because just cold turkey ultimately won't solve anything, but 49 days is freaking awesome. Tomorrow is day 50. Can you believe that? That means you've had your entire 2025 plus a little extra without porn. That is 49 days strong. Strong is the word there. Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't even go two, bruh. All right. I'm going to call this a day here soon. I've been here about 90 minutes, and I have other things to do, and I have to get ready for this evening. If I can help any of you in the area of porn addiction or betrayal trauma, or you need help with your partner working on communication and trust, I am trained in all of these areas. And I can help you. Just visit the front page of my profile, look at the link tree, click on that. And if you want to if you want to see my website, or if you want to follow me on social media aside from TikTok, clicking on that link tree gives you all the info. It gives you info on my Amazon books, if you've ever wanted to read any of those. So check out that link tree, see what's there, and I appreciate that. Thank you for wishing me a blessed day, Noah. And Tiny, thank you so much for wishing me a great birthday. I promise I won't make you do it for another year. It was good seeing all of you today, and I hope that I'll see you again very soon. Bye now.